Today I'm gonna talk about memorization. It's such a broad topic that it was hard to decide where to start. I'll be sharing what I personally do to memorize, how I practice, what I believe about memorization, and some common mistakes that I often see in students. To me, a good memorizer is someone who keeps asking questions and double checks, triple checks everything. Think of a person leaving home and asking, do I have my keys, my phone, wallet? They keep checking and asking. And that's exactly the attitude we need for memorizing music. Of course, you don't want to overdo it in everyday life, but when you're memorizing at the piano, you actually do need to overdo it. That constant checking is what strong memorizers do. The first method I use is muscle memory. If you repeat something the same way, your body learns it. It's crucial, especially for fast music. At faster tempo, it's impossible to think through every single note consciously. So the faster the piece, the more we rely on muscle memory. But there are some muscle memory traps that you should know about. The first trap is repeating mistakes without realizing it. Later, you notice that it was wrong, but by then, you've already built a strong habit. Unlearning is extremely hard. Sometimes you have to relearn several measures around it from scratch. That's why the first practice is so important. The way you start can send you the right direction or the wrong one. Memorization really begins with good fingerings. So in your first practice, be very careful what fingerings you use because they become part of your memory. Yes, you can change them later. You might find a better one or your teacher might suggest one. But changing fingerings after a few practice sessions can be extremely difficult. So choose wisely and early. Decide what works best for you, write it down. And stay consistent. That consistency makes muscle memory stronger. The second trap is depending only on muscle memory. Have you ever been able to run through the whole piece from memory, but when your teacher says, can you start from measure 43? You can't. Or when asked, can you play the left hand alone? And you can't, even though you could play both hands together. That's a sign you've been relying only on muscle memory. Muscle memory tends to link all the movements together. So you can play the left hand only when right hand moves a certain way. And you can play a passage only if all the previous measures go exactly the same. On stage, when you face a different piano, a different chair, different lighting, these small changes can weaken your muscle memory. That's why relying only on muscle memory is unreliable and risky. When I practice for memorization, I work on small sections, no more than 4 measures. I study the score for that section until I think I can recall it. And then I close the score and play from memory. Then I repeat the process. So it's very simple, but it takes a lot of time and focus. But it's definitely worth it. If you know some theory, this gets a lot easier. But even if you don't, always look for patterns. Repeated measures, similar phrases, or 2 measures that start the same but diverge because of one note. In this case, mark the repeated parts, maybe in the same color, and highlight that one note that leads to a new direction. This visual work really helps. And you should do this kind of small section memorizing early in the learning process. We need to build backup systems beyond muscle memory. If you always practice at the same tempo, your body records only that tempo. So try varying it. For a fast piece, practice very slowly, medium, and your performance tempo. So at least 3 different tempos. Maybe for slow pieces, you can practice a little bit faster than your usual tempo. This helps your brain stay flexible and not lock into one physical movement. Second one is rhythm variation. You don't have to do this for the entire piece, but if you have repeated rhythmic patterns, try changing the rhythm. when you do this, you can't rely on muscle memory. You have to know what the notes are. So it forces your ears and your mind to lead, not just your hands. Practicing hands separate, especially left hand alone, is very important. Most people's ears naturally follow the right hand's melody. But to memorize, your ears also need to know what's going on in the left hand. This practice helps you depend less on muscle memory. A lot of students stop looking at the score once they think that they have memorized it. For run-throughs, yes, you have to do it from memory, but most of the time, make sure you keep the score in front of you because you can't memorize every single articulations, dynamics, your teacher's notes purely with muscle memory. Once you've practiced this way for a while, it's time to see how solid your memorization really is. And if you really want to test your memorization, try playing for someone. Or if this is too intimidating, try recording yourself. Even the presence of a camera can make you a bit nervous, and that's a good thing because your muscle memory gets a little bit weaker, which makes it a perfect way to test. If you want to take it a step further, whenever you get a chance, close your eyes and try to play the piece in your head. If you get stuck, track the score, then fix that spot next time. I do this a lot before performances. If you can mentally play the piece from beginning to end, that's fantastic. When I teach, I notice 3 types of students when it comes to memorization. The first type is the strong sight reader. These students can play really well as long as the score is in front of them. Because reading is not difficult for them, they don't feel much need to memorize. And of course, with enough repetition, muscle memory does develop, but it usually takes a lot longer because they don't do any focused memorization practice. The second type is the complete opposite. I call them the anti-sight reader. They hate reading music, so they read just enough to get it and then quickly memorize the hand motion. The problem is they often avoid looking at the score after that, so they miss a lot of important details. And the third type is what I think of as the ideal mix. These students read well and they also make time to practice memorization. They keep the score open when they practice. They learn all the markings carefully and they build their memory in a very intentional way. Maybe you just play for fun and never plan to perform. And you might be wondering, do I still need to memorize? Memorizing doesn't automatically make your performance great, but without it, there's usually a limit to how complete a piece can feel if you don't know exactly what comes next. It's hard to say you truly know the piece. Also, if you memorize now, you'll relearn much faster when you return to that piece later. And since you're already investing so much time to practice, memorization can make that time more efficient and productive. So that's my take on memorization. There's much more to talk about, and this was only part of it, but I really hope it helps. For me as a pianist, memorization is not optional. So I've read a lot of books and research on this topic since when I was young, and I have tried so many approaches. Today I shared the ones that have really helped me. Whether you've never really thought about memorization or you've been struggling with it, I hope this gives you something practical to try. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Good luck with your practice.